everyone, it's Nikki.
And Kate.
And we're here to give you the best that CES has to offer in the world of cleaner, greener, safer and smarter vehicles. It is day 3 for us.
Or day 1 for the public.
Well, industry analysts, guests of companies.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a weird show. Technically, this is a trade show. It's not an auto show. But we are in the Northern Hall, which is known for its autonomous vehicles, its electric cars, and all manner of other things.
Yeah, lots of connected technology vehicles.
Exactly, and we've got a lot of exploring to do today. We've already seen some of the things on display. We were walking through one hall, weren't we, Kate?
Yes, we must stop and see this bike.
Yes. We were accosted, I think is probably the best way.
I think so.
By a couple of PR people from a motorcycle company.
No.
A company.
Yes.
That wants to bring an electric motorcycle to market that will revolutionize the world. I think the phrase they used was like a Tesla.
That was actually the phrase they used.
But a motorbike.
Yes.
And I got excited.
You did.
You got excited.
Yes, I love motorbikes and electric motorbikes even more.
And when we arrived,
we were slightly underwhelmed. Ever so.
It had 2 wheels.
It did.
It was a motorbike.
It was a bike and it had a motor. I concur.
It was a 3 kilowatt motor.
Yeah, well, it was a 3 kilowatt controller.
They wouldn't tell us how big the motor was because they didn't know. The battery specs was 1.45 kilowatts, according to the press team. We were so curious that we actually pushed quite a lot and said, can you send us the specs?
And they promised to do that later, but they seem to be a little bit vague on the actual specs.
Still 1.5 kilowatt hours.
Yes.
Or
And
maybe it was 1.45 kilowatts at the motor. I don't know.
I don't know.
But this is the funny thing. The reason why we got so frustrated, and there's footage of me getting really frustrated about this. Maybe we'll cut into some of that. They were claiming a top speed of 70 miles an hour.
And a range of 40 to 45 miles at that top speed. So that bike was a ridiculous object on wheels.
It was. And there's a lot of bullshit here at CES, and our job, and I'm going to get told off because I mentioned bovine byproduct on screen,
Yes.
is to sort out the wheat from the chaff, to make sure that you don't
Have to endure it.
Yeah, I mean, that bike was a good example. There's loads of it here. But we've got some great things that we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at the Byton Concept up close and personal.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll be having a drive because of the rain.
No.
We're going to be looking at the Kia.
Yeah.
The Kia Niro EV.
Mhm.
Despite
And-
being a little disappointed by that, we want to check it out. The Hyundai Nexo.
Yes, that FCEV.
Yep.
We're looking forward to seeing
We're going to
that
check
up
out
close.
Continental because they're doing some stuff with wireless charging.
Yep.
And other cool things that we want to check out. And there's something else.
NVIDIA. And I'm going to go to it.
I'm the boss.
I will race you there.
No. I've got to go and see the Nissan mind reading car.
Oh, okay. You go have your mind read. Don't worry, I won't go to NVIDIA just yet.
Great. Well, we've seen what's coming up, so time for us to get on. See you in a bit. You're not going to NVIDIA on your own.
No, obviously not.
No, not at all. I'm right next to the Byton Concept car. This was a vehicle that we saw unveiled on Sunday evening at a special event as part of the media preview days. And now I get to see it for the first time in the bare metal, so to speak. Last time I saw this car, it was on a stage a long, long way away, up close and personal. It's actually a very good looking vehicle. Looks far better, I think, than the vehicle did on stage during the reveal. Byton says this car will start with a level 3 autonomy. It will go up to level 4 and then hopefully to level 5 beyond that. So what's level 3, what's level 4, what's level 5? Well, level 3, that is where the car does some of the driving, but there still has to be a human behind the wheel ready to take control of the car at any point. Level 4 autonomy is where the car does 95% of the driving, maybe even 98% of the driving, and the human is there really as a backup. We're starting to see systems from Volvo and a couple of other automakers that demonstrate level 4 autonomy. Level 5 is completely autonomous. This car can drive itself without any human interaction or intervention at all. Now, Byton will start with level 3 and work its way up to level 4 and level 5. All of these sensors can be upgraded after you purchase the car, at least that's what Byton says. And in terms of design, it does remind me very much of I thought at the time it reminded me of the BMW, but actually this does seem very similar to a certain FF91 from Faraday Future. Very similar kind of proportions. Obviously, big SUV-styled cars are actually quite good for electric vehicles because you've got lots of space underneath for batteries because the ride height is nice and high. You've got plenty of space under the hood and in the trunk area for storage, and that means you can store a lot of things. This is a concept version of the first car that Byton hopes to bring to market in 2019. It's building a factory in China, and the starting price, and this is the thing we're struggling with, $45,000. Now, I don't buy that Byton is going to do that. I'm very, very skeptical of the price. A lot of technology in this car. There has to be an ROI, a return on the investment. And in order for it to ship at $45,000, it's going to need some seriously, seriously low-cost, affordable parts. And it's going to also need a butt-ton of people buying it. Obviously, it's going to go on sale in China. It's going to go on sale elsewhere in the world. I can't wait to have a drive in one. I'm going to see if I can get behind the steering wheel. Well, I don't know where Kate is, so maybe we'll find out where she's ended up. Kate, over to you.
Thanks, Vicky. I am here at the Kia stand looking at the Kia Concept EV, the Niro. This is not ready for production yet, but it is coming later this year, and we saw it unveiled yesterday. With a range of 238 miles, it has a range very similar to another car you might have seen. We do not yet have a price for this vehicle, and interior-wise, it very much feels like a concept car. You look inside, it doesn't look like a production vehicle yet. So we're interested to see how this evolves as it moves into production. Size-wise, looks very similar to a Chevy Bolt. Again, it's a really practical size of vehicle, very useful, and stylistically, it does look nice. So we'll see how it evolves. Now, I think it's time to go back to Nikki. Let's see what she's up to.
Hey, Kate. Well, I've made the really, really short walk from the Byton booth, which is just over there, to the Hyundai booth, where we're here with the Nexo FCV. It's a vehicle that Hyundai is going to be using to replace the Hyundai Tucson FCV, or iX35, as it's known in Europe. And we're wandering over here because they've got a lovely cutaway vehicle that we can use to explain some of the features of this vehicle. Yes, it's another hydrogen fuel cell car, but that's okay because Hyundai says that this car is going to clean the air for you as you drive along. Inside this vehicle, you'll see there's seating for 5. There are 3 hydrogen fuel cell tanks. There's a 120 kilowatt fuel cell stack, next generation, obviously, which Hyundai says is about 60% more efficient than the previous generation fuel cell stack that was found in the Hyundai Tucson FCV. We also have a much improved interior. There's AI technology, or rather autonomous driving technology on board. It will start with level 3 autonomy and work its way up, pretty much like every other car that we're seeing here at CES. Now, in terms of fueling, Hyundai says that this vehicle will refuel from empty to full in just 5 minutes. And while I would like to believe that, we've heard those kind of figures banded about in the past by hydrogen fuel cell automakers. And the problem with that, if I'm completely honest, is that I don't believe the fueling station technology is going to be able to meet those demands. Talking of fueling, though, this car will work with both the 350 kpsi fueling stations and the 700 kpsi fueling stations. We don't have a word on price yet, but that's primarily because Hyundai hasn't yet announced its rollout plans. And in terms of availability, it's only going to be available in the state of California. Compliance car, then. I have wandered over to the Toyota booth where we're looking at the e-Pallet. It's all electric. It's got 4 axles, so 8 wheels, and it's designed as a box, a blank canvas, if you will, that can travel around cities and fulfill any number of different roles within the urban mega city of the future. Some of the suggested applications include ride sharing, mobile shops, delivery services, offices on wheels, you name it, the e-Pallet will do it. Sadly missing from the list was robot delivery service, because if you, like me, watched the I, Robot film with Will Smith from, well, about a decade ago, you'll recognize this as being very similar to the massive robot transporters that attack Will Smith while he's in the tunnel in the film. I don't think that's the goal of Toyota here, but this is most definitely a concept vehicle rather than anything that you'll be able to buy for commercial use anytime soon. But there is a catch. You see, Toyota is sponsoring the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, and it is pushing the metaphorical boat out as far as it can possibly go. On the rest of the Toyota stand, there is a showcase of Toyota's various other hydrogen, fuel cell, electric and future vehicles, some of which are still in the concept phase, some of which may or may not actually make it to production. This vehicle will be on display at the 2020 Olympics, and it won't just be on display, it will be being used to transport dignitaries from point A to point B throughout the Olympic Village. I don't think I'd want to actually ride in one of these on a daily basis. It's a very uninspiring vehicle. And one of the things about Toyota's vision of the future is that we actually do something inside our vehicle. Now, I don't know about you, but I used to like looking out the window when I was a kid. And I don't think you're going to do a whole lot of that in this vehicle, because Toyota wants to keep you active, interested, and entertained while you're traveling around the city. I'm not sure. Kate, what do you think? Over to you.
Nikki, I am really not very convinced about that. This is another interesting prospect though. So this is the Immotor Go. I'm going to get on this now and tell you a little bit about it. So, ooh, exciting. The Immotor Go, 4 miles an hour in its low speed mode. Oh, 4 miles an hour in its low speed mode, and 16 miles of range and 16 miles an hour top speed. This is a device intended to solve the last mile problem. So how do you get to and from your house to the railway station, or from your car to your office? The nice thing about the Immotor Go is that it can fold down. So it is in fact designed to fold down so that you can pack it onto a plane as a carry-on. And that is pretty nifty. It has 2 small batteries that charge in about 2.5 hours. It's got some nice articulation and suspension, and I expect when you have the top speed of 16 miles an hour as opposed to the top speed of 4 miles an hour enabled, then you could probably have quite a lot of fun. As to how serious an electric vehicle it is, that's another question. So that's it from Immotor. I'm going to hand you back over to Nikki, who is not wobbling about on a scooter. At least I assume not. Let's see what she's up to.
Thanks, Kate. We're having a little bit of a change of pace now. We're down here on the Continental stand talking about some of Continental's new technology that's been announced at CES, because contrary to popular opinion, Continental just doesn't make tyres for cars. It makes things that go inside cars too. In this case, electric vehicle technology. And behind me, this is the all-charge system, which has been announced at CES. What is the all-charge system? Well, it's a new DC-DC conversion technology and a new motor and inverter pack that makes it possible for the car to operate at a much wider battery voltage range without damaging the battery. It allows the car to charge at a higher voltage and get the power it needs into the battery pack without damaging the battery, and it improves efficiency, and that of course will improve range. Now how it works is this is compatible with the new next generation CCS quick charge technology, which operates at 800 volts, but it allows companies to step down that 800 volts to, say, 400 volts. So car companies can build battery packs that are 400 volts, but still use the 800 volt system. Now, the other interesting thing about this all-charge system is that this little box here can actually step the voltage up when the battery reaches a low state of charge, meaning that the motor can be tuned to operate in a much narrower voltage range. That means that the motor operates at a much higher efficiency than it would if the motor had to be designed to operate when the battery is at a very high voltage and at a very low voltage. It also means that you get full performance right till empty, which is quite a useful thing if you're not used to driving electric cars. Behind the all-charge system, we have a new 11 kilowatt inductive charging system, which will be going to OEMs in the next 2 or 3 years. It's got a whole host of different features on board that make it easier to make sure that you are located correctly with your vehicle and you don't have to plug it in when you charge. Now, I know that wireless inductive charging is quite a controversial topic amongst electric vehicle fans because, frankly, it doesn't take very much time to just plug the car in. But in order for electric vehicles to gain much more mainstream acceptance, I personally think that we do need to see more inductive charging technologies, especially if we can use this technology to provide electric car charging for those who don't have off-street parking or a garage that they can use to charge at night. So just imagine a popular street scene of the future where people who don't have garages, be it in New York or London or any other busy mega city, park over spots in the ground at night time. There's communication between the car and the charging station so that the company responsible for providing the electricity knows who to charge, and then the car charges wirelessly overnight. You don't have to worry about plugging in, you just get in and drive off the next morning. I can see that being a really useful application in the future. Also in front of me, from Continental as well of course, are 2 new tyre technologies that are very sophisticated and super advanced. One is a wheel that changes the size of the tyre as you're driving along depending on the road conditions. This means that when it's a nice dry day and there's plenty of grip, the tyre is shrunk. The contact area between the tyre and the road is shrunk so that you can get a higher fuel efficiency. That's of course as you decrease the rolling resistance of a tyre by decreasing the contact area between the road and the wheel, you get better fuel economy. The other useful application for this would be in low traction conditions. Say if it's snowing, the tyre expands, allowing you to retain grip without sacrificing performance in better conditions. The other tyre in front of me is even more mind-blowing. It contains electrically conductive material, which enables the tyre to be almost self-aware. All these sensors inside the tyre report back to the car's tyre depth, the tread depth, and also if there's a puncture or low pressure condition, the car also knows. Now, you might think that's a bit of an overkill for a car that you drive yourself, but the reality here is that in the future, when we've got level 5 autonomous vehicles, if that car gets a puncture, the car can't exactly get out of itself and check or change a wheel. But if there are sensors in the tyre and in the wheel itself, the car can constantly be aware of what's going on with its own tyres. And if there's a problem, it can identify them very often before they become a problem for the vehicle itself. So that's it. Continental, you might not think of them as playing an important part in the electric vehicle and future car world. They really are. What are you up to, Kate?
Thanks, Nikki. We're here at the NVIDIA stand, and I have to say this is probably my favorite stand of the entire show. I don't really, I'm really interested in the tech on the other stands, but the stuff we saw at the keynote from NVIDIA was really, really impressive. So DriveX Xavier is a level 3 and level 4 autonomous driving module that can be inserted into a car. It's been developed through deep learning and AI, and it is really Really impressive. And then they've also developed the Drive Pegasus system, which is intended to produce level 5 autonomous driving. And that is something that we've been waiting for, we've had talked about for many years, but it actually sounds like it's pretty close to here. Talking to NVIDIA, they are talking about OEMs having this product very soon and being able to develop vehicles based around it. And that means we may actually start seeing level 5 autonomous vehicles on the road. So NVIDIA are also working with OEM providers to manage the data produced by the Drive Xavier and Drive Pegasus systems. So with an autonomous vehicle, you're looking at around 4 terabytes of data produced from a single day. That is an astonishing quantity of data to manage, and being able to adequately process that is going to be one of the biggest challenges going forwards. 2 years ago, Nikki traveled in an autonomous driving Nissan, and that had the entire trunk filled with computing and electronics. Instead, what we have here is a single board. This board can replace multiple units in the car. So cars now have upwards of 30, 40 different small isolated computer systems. This unit can replace many of those computer systems with one unit, and it improves the security potential because multiple isolated individual units are potential sources of entry for hackers, as we've seen with the many challenges that automakers have had over the past few years with people hacking into the vehicle. So the other astonishing thing about the NVIDIA processors and this NVIDIA system on a chip is the amount of power consumed. It is looking at 400 watts. Now, 400 watts, what is that? Well, your PC on your desk. That probably has a power supply that is larger than 400 watts. This system can drive a car, my PC, it's a media center. For electric vehicles, that 400 watts is really important. That is less than half a kilowatt hour per hour. That means that you're going to get greater range out of your autonomous electric vehicle. That's it from NVIDIA. We're going to go over now and see what Nikki's up to.
Well, that certainly sounds like you had a fun time there, Kate. Well, I'm here at the Nissan booth, where I think actually this has to be the weirdest display of today. Nissan has developed some technology that allows the car to read your mind. Now, I'm not talking about any kind of special facial recognition to see if you're paying attention. I'm talking about a cap that you put on your head that allows the car to infer from your brainwaves what you're going to do next. And the idea is that it helps with autonomous driving. It helps smooth out the ride if you're not driving yourself. And if you are driving, helps you, assists you by making small adjustments to make sure that your driving is the absolute best it can be. Now, I just watched this very weird presentation in which Nissan talked about the technology. It was a little vague. They compared the brainwaves of the guinea pig driving a simulator with what the car thought the optimal performance could be and analyzed it. And I had to ask at the end of it if this is technology that someone is actually going to try and sell, if Nissan is going to try and sell it, if it's going to ask consumers to buy this technology and drive down the road with a thing on your head. And the answer was no. The idea that Nissan has is that this is going to be a technology that will be compatible with us in the future. No, just stay with me. We're talking about technology that is, like Nissan said, a little bit like Bluetooth. So in the future, you might have a brain that's wired for this technology. Yes, I do mean wired, presumably an implant or something that you wear. And then the car reads your brainwaves through that. Honestly, I'm not convinced. And Nissan, this is the weirdest thing you've ever come up with. And you've come up with some pretty weird stuff over the years. So, Kate, that's pretty much it for today. So I'm going to come and find you, and maybe we can go and have a drink somewhere and celebrate finishing the end of day 3 of CES coverage. Now, where were you last?